What happens when you transform one of the best animated movies ever into a video game? A visually gorgeous, brutally tough, and unforgiving platformer called The Lion King. Is it, like the film, a masterpiece? And just how many hyenas, lizards, and bugs must die in our playthrough? Find out on this episode of Nintendo Kill Count as we track everything we murder as Simba, the king of Pride Rock. Roughly following the events of the film, the first 6 levels have you playing as young Simba. Being just a cub, his moveset is limited and in many ways reflects other platformer characters like Mario. He can run and jump, which is useful for both platforming and injuring enemies. He can also roll, and his cute little baby lion roar leaves some baddies open to attack. When starting the game, it's hard not to notice the amazing visuals and catchy music, but I will talk about them more later. This may be an odd thing to say, but level 1 is one of my favorites. It's not too hard, the platforming is fairly forgiving, and with a little trial and error, you can figure out what enemies can be jumped on versus rolled into or roared at. The hyena at the end is a good challenge, and as young Simba, your only option is to jump on its noggin like a Mario boss. I guess now is as good a time as any to address the issue of whether or not you ever kill hyenas. Often after you damage them, they simply slump over in this goofy position. Are they dead or simply stunned? Seeing as I don't even know how to check the pulse of a hyena, I'm going to count them as deceased. Level 2 removes all combat but substantially increases the platforming difficulty, and even throws in some puzzle elements in deciphering what pink monkeys to growl at to have them throw you in a different direction. Unfortunately, the platforming really starts to feel unfair and imprecise, and without the ability to rewind, I would have been incredibly frustrated. While I won't mention it again, that is a common theme for every level. Additionally, what makes this level so hard, and what killed so many of my playthroughs as a kid on the Sega Genesis, was the stupid ostrich section. Riding on its back, you jump over the pink hippos and avoid the bird nests. You'd think a hippo would be easy to spot, but the stupid little animals blend so well into the colorful background, and if you're not careful, they will catch you by surprise. Level 3 introduces more annoying enemies in the flying vultures. Their horizontal flying attack is so fast, it's challenging to figure out how early to jump in order to land on their head. Level 4 was the most unique as you flee stampeding wildebeests. The perspective changes as you are now running straight out of the screen, avoiding the out-of-control animals and rocks that will damage you. Level 5 is more platforming with new bug enemies that move faster than Sonic. It caps the level with an insane platforming section. Picture a variable speed vertical treadmill with gaps you can fall through, and you've got a good idea of why this waterfall makes you think anything but Hakuna Matata. The only redeeming quality is the hilarious mini-boss gorilla waiting for you at the end. I swear his arms are telescopic, and watching Simba get whacked over and over never gets old. Simba finally hits puberty, and the next 4 levels sees substantial growth in his offensive abilities. He has a basic slash attack, and another where he gets up on his hind legs and does a double swipe, but it's pretty laggy and leaves him vulnerable. Jump attacks and low swipes flesh out his abilities even more, but perhaps the most interesting new move is his ability to throw exhausted enemies. I never perfected this move, but I feel like it would be essential to learn for anyone looking to master the game, instead of relying on rewinding like me. This may sound like a strange comparison, but his new moveset kinda feels like the skeleton for a fighting game character. Simba for Smash, anyone? Level 7 is my favorite of the adult Simba levels, as the background is gorgeous, the platforming is on the easier side, and it is straightforward, which, on the rare occasions that it happens, is appreciated in The Lion King. Level 8 is pretty annoying, with tons of enemies in 2 sections that can leave you scratching your head on what to do next. The first occurs after hopping on a log and floating down a lava river. At a certain point, you have to jump off the log, fight a few enemies, and jump back onto the log on the other side. If, however, you are like me and take too long to fight the enemies, the log will go on its merry way. Will another log ever show up? Absolutely not, and the only way to progress is to take after your father Mufasa, fall off a cliff, and start the whole thing again. The other confusing section occurs at the very end. Multiple lava geysers are exploding while rocks fall from the ceiling. How do you progress? By literally running around, aimlessly dodging the falling rocks until finally, bigger rocks crash into the ground and plug up the lava geysers. Level 9 is unique as it functions as a maze where you have to enter holes in the rock and fight a ton of hyenas. On paper, this sounds kinda cool, but playing it is a real drag as it boils down to guess and check. And then there's level 10. How this level ever got past QA, I will never know. You chase Scar around Pride Rock, briefly fighting him twice. And when I say briefly, I still mean for several minutes. Then you engage in the final showdown on the very top of your old home. Here you fight, and fight, and fight, and fight. I don't love doing this, but after several minutes I paused the game and looked up if I was doing anything wrong. It turns out every little paw swipe I landed was doing 1 damage. Scar has like 200 health, meaning if I had continued to battle him as I did, it would have taken forever to finish. Thankfully, an enlightening Reddit post also imparted knowledge of the forbidden pouncing attack. Jumping near Scar's head and then immediately attacking deals about 50 damage, so after doing 1 or 2 of these, I was able to finish Scar off. Besides the 10 main levels, there are 2 kinds of bonus missions starring Timon and Pumbaa. In one, you play as Pumbaa, grabbing bugs that fall at different speeds. In the other, you play as Timon, collecting good bugs and avoiding bad ones under a strict time limit. I was incredibly garbage at these levels, and I don't know what sort of reward, if any, you get for doing well in them. Speaking of rewards, power-ups were something I didn't really know existed until researching the game. I think they permanently increase your health and roar meter. On a side note, I'm still not entirely sure if roaring has any purpose outside of stunning some enemies. Anyways, these power-ups would have helped, but the ability to rewind made them essentially obsolete. Ultimately, after beating the Lion King for the first time, my opinion is pretty negative, but I do want to highlight the few things I thought it did well. The biggest standouts are the visual presentation and music. I love how this game looks. The vibrant backgrounds capture the mood of the film, and the music is pretty stellar and really hits on the nostalgia vibes. Usually when I'm going back and counting the enemies killed in my playthroughs, I mute the game audio and listen to music or a podcast. But in this case, I loved the tune so much, I often just listen to the game music. While this isn't the worst game I've played for the channel, it was my biggest disappointment. I adore the movie, and I hoped the game would capture some of that magic. But unfortunately, I have almost nothing else positive to say. The platforming is tough and often occurs over insta-kill areas like bottomless pits or lava. The enemies are challenging, and the final boss is kinda absurd. Without the ability to rewind, I don't think I would have ever made it past the Stampede level, and even then, I only would have made it that far with tons of practice. If you're considering playing this game, I would strongly suggest you look up a few pictures online, admire the art, listen to a few songs from the soundtrack, and then go watch the animated movie instead. Finally, we arrive at the kill count. In total, as Simba in The Lion King, we killed 17 lizards, 9 porcupines, 4 rhinoceros beetles, 11 vultures, 60 hyenas, 9 frogs, 5 spiders, 33 leopards, 13 monkeys, 1 gorilla, 29 bats, 74 bugs, and 1 family member, our dear Uncle Scar. This brings the grand total to 266 enemies. Simba manages to squeeze into the top 10 most deadly characters, just ahead of Mario from Super Mario Bros., and just behind Pax from Mushroom Men and the Spore Wars. Feel free to check out those videos if you haven't already. Considering the only thing I can remember Simba killing in the animated movie is a couple of bugs he eats with Timon and Pumbaa, His game character really leaves a bloody trail of death to reclaim his throne. This game collection also includes Aladdin and The Jungle Book. I know nothing about them, but if you've played either, let me know if they are more fun than The Lion King, and if I should consider playing them on a future episode. Thanks for watching, and consider subscribing if you haven't already.